Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe, and I just finished counting all of my books. Come June, so this is the month of June, I count the entirety of my book collection. I take stock, I see where I'm at, I see how I got there and why, and I look at previous year's numbers to give me a little bit of a guidance point, a needle point to show my position in life. So I find this very fascinating to track. I just think it's interesting to see how my book collection grows or shrinks, should I mostly say grows, over the years, and also just why certain things happen. And so we're going to talk through it here, and we're going to start by looking at what my bookshelves were like in 2022. So I've links to all the previous counting my books videos that I've done before, but as of last year I owned 969 books in total. That was my full collection. We were not quite a library yet because you're 1,000 books to be a library. I had 525 books that I'd read and 444 books that I had not read. And I felt pretty okay about those numbers. I was happy that I had more read books than unread books, and it just felt like quite a lot of unread books, to be fair, like quite a lot of unread books, and I wanted that ratio to be a bit more different. I wanted there to be significantly more read books than unread books. So I felt satisfied, but I felt like I could do better. Now we come to 2023. Okay, here we go. I now have 1,159 books in the entirety of my collection. I'm a library now. I'm at library level. I have read exactly 700 of those books. I have 459 unread books. And I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of myself. I think this is the happiest I've ever been on reflecting on my bookshelves numbers. I'm so happy and proud. We've got to start with the 459. Last year I had 444 unread books, and this year I've got 459 unread books. We're not quite at the level of where my unread number of books has gone down after a year worth of reading and hauling and unhauling. We're not quite at that point, but it only grew by about, what, 15 books. 15 books! To only have grown my TBR number by 15 books over a whole year is fantastic for me. If you look at my previous books, the jumps are in the hundreds. Like, I've got 100 more books, unread books, than last year. I've got 100 more unread books. 15! 15! Somebody get me some cheesecake, I deserve to celebrate. But I'm also really impressed with the jump from 525 to 700 read books. That's quite a lot more read books. That is 175 more read books than I had before. And as you'll know, if you've been on my channel for a while, I actually am very steadfast at unhauling books that I read and didn't like, or read and thought were okay. I do typically keep what I like to think of as the best of the best on my shelf. And so the fact that I've kept 175 more read books shows that I have actually been reading so much, but I've also been reading so much that I enjoy, or getting books that I enjoyed but didn't have copies of. And so I'm actually content for my read collection to grow as much as it wants. I'm not that fussed about that, but to know that it's grown by 175 books while I regularly unhaul and give away books makes me feel like happy and content with the fact that I let go of books and I'm keeping books I enjoy, and the collection is still growing. It means I'm continuing to read good books. And then when we look at the total number, 1,159, I cannot believe it. I don't keep all the 1,159 books here in my flat with me. I think the vast majority of them are now at home, because whenever I read a book and my parents come here, they take back books for me. So at home I've probably got about 650 books. I appreciate my parents for storing them for me, but we are at library level. I own my own personal library. That's just... what? What? I own my own personal library. In some ways this feels like a dream come true. Not gonna lie, I do enjoy having a vast number of books. I do enjoy my hobby. I do enjoy this passion of mine. It kind of makes me proud when I see all of my books. Well, I never see them all together, but the day that I see all of my books together in one room on bookshelves, I think I might cry, because I'll be so happy and proud and feeling some type of way. But yeah, I feel I feel special. I feel happy having my own little library, and I'm happy that the majority of them are ones that I've read, and I'm happy that my TBR hasn't grown by too much, and that I've got lots of books I'm excited and looking forward to. There's been a lot of contributing factors to these levels of numbers, and so we're going to talk about those contributing factors now. One of them, the reason why my TBR has not grown as much this year, largely has to do with the TBR challenge that I've set myself for 2023. So I do my yearly check-in midway through the year, which is June, which means it wasn't in effect for 6 months of this count. So only in the last 6 months does that TBR challenge actually have effect on my TBR. And I think it is largely, if not entirely, the reason why my TBR hasn't grown by astronomical numbers again this year, because of the fact that I've actively been trying to read from my TBR, read from my shelves. I'm not borrowing library books at the moment, I'm not rereading books at the moment, I'm just trying to actively get to books that I've hauled in that I own and I haven't read, and that's literally all I've read this year. No audiobooks that I don't own copies of or anything like that. It's all what's on my shelves, and that has contributed to me sticking to what I'm reading, and the fact that I'm keeping my TBR down and I'm not hauling in as many books as I probably do otherwise. Another reason why I'm not hauling in as many books as I probably do otherwise is the fact that I've been on a buying ban for a year. The entire duration of those 12 months of the last count, from June to June this year, I have not bought myself a single book. I have gone on a buying ban for a whole year. You might be wondering how my book collection has still managed to grow. That is because I do get books as gifts, because that is one of the things that I love to read, and people know this about me and give me books as gifts, and I love getting books as gifts. And secondly, because I am a reviewer, I am an active book content creator, and that does mean you get free books and review copies that you are sent to talk about on your social channels. And so that is the avenue of how I've acquired books while also being on a book buying ban. I also work in publishing, which often means you acquire books too as part of the job. So that is a bit of why my book collection has still been growing while I've been on a buying ban. Another contributing factor, which again ties into the TBR challenge, is that I've been DNFing a lot this year. I DNF and unhaul a lot more than I used to, in terms of the fact that often before, when I started a book and I didn't like it, I would often finish it for a variety of reasons, often because I like to have hope in books. I like to have faith that they are going to get better, and I cross my fingers and I keep reading, and then they don't get better and I feel disappointed at the end. But also I did try and review every single book that I was ever sent, and while that is great, sometimes you start a book and you know it's not going to work for you, and you still read it out of the obligation of you want to review it. So that sometimes happens to me, and that was why I didn't DNF as much, along with just being content to blitz through books that I didn't love and just finish them just to talk about them. I guess I don't know why I didn't DNF as much as I did, but I just wasn't someone who naturally stopped reading a book. But not even because I've gotten better at being like, I don't like this book, I don't need to read it. It's not even that. I think it is the TBR challenge and the fact that I want to win my TBR challenge and I want to beat Hannah. So if I want to do that, I need to be getting books off of my TBR faster. And so DNFing a book when I don't like it is an easy way to do that. It saves me from dragging my way through a book that I don't particularly enjoy, and it means I get one step closer to winning. And those two contributing factors, as someone who's very competitive, mean I DNF more. And my DNF journey has been great this year. I'm enjoying the fact that I DNF. I'm enjoying the fact that I don't force myself through books that I'm not enjoying. I'm very curious to see what happens next year and where my mind is at with DNFing once the challenge is over. Will I return back to continuing on with books that I'm not particularly loving? Or will I just naturally, I've moved into this state of being and it's going to stay this way and I'm going to DNF books I don't like? I don't know, I have to wait and see, but it has been great to DNF more this year, and that has also contributed to my TBR not growing magnificently. I have been reading unparalleled levels of reading. I don't typically read 16 to 20 books a month. 2023, I've read on average 16 to 20 books a month. It's not my normal. I don't know what's happened. I don't know if my reading speed has amped up, or if I don't actually have more reading time, so I don't know what is going on in my life, but I've been reading more and more, and I've been enjoying what I read a lot more. This first half of the year, June January to June 2023. I've had so many 5 stars. It's going to make selecting my best books of the year absolutely brutal. I'm just loving what I'm reading at the moment. I think it's partly because of the fact that I've been DNFing a lot more. It's partly because of the fact that I've just been picking up books and like being attuned to my taste a lot more, but also I think I'm very attuned to my mood lately. I've always been a mood reader, but sometimes you read a couple of books to figure out what mood you're in, but this year it hasn't been like that. When I've been picking my next read, when I've been picking up a book, I've got my mood and I understand it, and that has helped me so much this year with enjoying books and with racing through them and becoming addicted to them and leaning into that feeling. I've found a way of reading books that I've chosen to get and books that are review books in a way that works in tandem, where I'm reading an equal amount of each but also enjoying the experience of reading both. And I think when you enjoy what you read, when you mood read and you're just loving reading in general, it helps you to get through your TBR faster. But simultaneously, I've been doing something where I've been trying to balance reading old books on my TBR with my new books, and I think it's always fun and exciting to get a book and to read it instantly, and actually that's rarely ever me. It's usually like a couple of weeks after I got it. But I'm really finding joy in seeing the books that I've had for a very long time leave my shelf, and that joy and enjoyment from that emotion makes me want to read the oldest books on my TBR more. I don't want there to be books on my shelves that have languished there for years, and while I do try to read the oldest books on my TBR every year, I'm also giving myself the freedom to be like, actually I don't want to read any of the oldest books on my TBR, so I'm going to pick one that's somewhere like in the middle, in the like 100 to 200 mark. I do have a list of all the books I've owned in order of when I acquired them, and so I can do that. I can be like, this is one of the oldest books I've read, this is kind of mid-old, mid-new, and I guess I am picking from all around it, but I am hyper focusing on some of the oldest. It brings me joy. It brings me joy to move the oldest ones off, to read them, to get through them, to try them. That cycle is really nice, and I think it makes me even happy about the fact that my TBR is at like 459 is because of the fact that I know that the majority of those are new in books now. There's less and less and less of the ones that have been languishing for ages, and it makes me excited about my TBR in a whole new way. That is very real. Oh, it's fascinating. I'm so happy with this count of my TBR books. Could I have fewer books on my TBR? Yes, I could. Do I care? No, I do not. I like having a big TBR. I've been vocal about that before. It makes me happy to see loads of books that I can choose from. I'm not very... lol, I was about to say I'm not very materialistic when I own over 1,000 books. Books are the one thing that I collect, let's say like that. I collect amongst two, but less so over the years lately. Books are the one thing that I'm still actively collecting, and they bring me so much joy, and Mary Kondo said to keep things that bring you joy. I'm sure she didn't mean to keep this many, but I'm doing it anyway. So there you have it. Please let me know in the comment section down below. Do you have a big TBR? Do you have a small TBR? What kind of size is your TBR, and how do you feel about it? Because that is the most important thing. It doesn't matter what size your TBR is. What matters is whether you are happy with it or not. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!